Hi everyone. I wanted to create another video following up my last video on Eckankar. I had no idea that so many people would be interested in that or watch it. But I just wanted to respond to some comments that I got. So one comment was someone saying that I was pronouncing Eckankar wrong, and then I'm like, I'm pronouncing it the same way that Sri Harold pronounces it, and then he's like, no, it's Eckankar, I guess, and it's a Sikh term. So that made me go and research Sikhism. And I just want to give a little disclaimer that I am no way some kind of religious scholar. Like, I don't know how to do that on a professional level. Like, I'm not trying to debate with anyone, and I do have like an extreme curiosity at times where I can go off on like researching tangents, but I cannot debate or, like, I'm not going to argue with anyone about religious texts or scholarly papers or anything like that, because I just can't do that. Like, I'm just someone who likes to make weird art and music and videos, and then also just happened to be someone who was born with parents who practiced Eckankar, and through that I was able to learn to do soul travel. So basically what that means to me is that when I have a spiritual text in my hands, I have learned through techniques in Eckankar like soul travel how to contact those teachings and words and what's behind them through in realms that are not physical. So I can go to the source of it, I guess. So I can actually like soul travel to the source of it on the other plane. Like, I can have an experience of where did this come from? How does this feel to me? What kind of dreams does this give me? Like I really contemplate on it. So let's say, for example, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. That is something, if you try and read it, it may be hard to sit there and read through. But the way that I would approach it, because of what I learned in Eckankar, is I would just take like a sentence or a paragraph, and I would read that a few times, and then I would put that in my consciousness, like in my third eye area, and then I would soul travel to the vibration of those words. I would see where my spirit ends up when that is my focal point. And sometimes it doesn't always work. Like, I can't always soul travel. Sometimes I'm not meant to, but I know it's hard to explain for people who don't have these experiences, but I want to get to the root of where these things come from so that I can know it. Like, just reading it is not the point to me. I need to have an experience with it in the inner worlds to really know it. And by virtue of learning that in Eckankar, that's how I have made connections with certain deities, because I can soul travel. I can move my consciousness to the place where these beings reside if they will allow it, and if it's something that my spiritual masters want for me, if it will help me in my spiritual growth, then they allow me to interact with these beings. And that's also how I know that they're not some sort of like archetype like Jung believed. I know that they're actual like soul beings. So back to what I was saying. Because of this comment that was left on my video, I looked up a Sikh text, Japji Sahib, Japjisahib, and I listened to that thing, and it is so amazing. I mean, I think if we all listen to this text every day, I'm gonna link it in the description. If people listen to this every day, put it in their consciousness, and like meditated or soul travel to the source of this, I think if we all did that every day, and let's say like you do that with a paragraph of this text every day for like a week, and then you move on to the next one, and then you can like keep doing it. Like, when you finish the whole text and you do it over every time, you can access like new layers of it. And the way that you know if this is something like true and pure is, how does it affect you? Like, does it change your behaviors for the better? Does it give you clarity and understanding in life and peace? Does it give you peaceful dreams? Like, do you feel like you can move about in life with greater purpose, or in a way to where you understand your place and you feel the understanding of your place in the universe. So if I can do that with the text and it brings me those things, then I feel that they are pure. And that's definitely what I felt from the Sikh text. So, and of course, yes, it's very much like Eckankar. It's probably the same in the teachings, a lot of the same words used from what I found. But I just want to say, like, now I want to go back to the origin of like how my parents even heard of Eckankar. My parents were both professional musicians in Europe, specifically in Germany. I'm half German and half black, so I'm biracial. But my parents, my mom got a singing contract. She was managed by someone named Frank Farian, who is the same manager of the group Milli Vanilli, that lip singing group, but he managed lots of bands, and one of them was hers. That was just a small part of her career, but she was in the group called La Mama, which was a popular group in Europe. So she got a contract to live in Germany, but she toured all over the world. And my father was musician as well. He was in a German group called Cherubin, and they were like kraut rock, and he did lots of other things too. He played for professional musicians, and he was a studio guitarist too. But they're both like traveled the world, sometimes for touring, and at one time, I think this was in either the 60s or 70s, before my dad met my mom, he was living in London, and he was atheist, I believe. Originally, his family was Catholic, but some of the traumas done to children in like the 40s, around the wartime in Germany, like the nuns and some of the things that happened to those kids, like in the boarding schools and stuff, was so traumatic. So he just disassociated himself with that completely and became atheist. But, you know, it was the 60s and psychedelic and all that. So he was getting back into exploring spirituality. And in London, he met this Indian man he says his name was Subra. And Subra, I believe, is a word for like Shiva. It's another word meaning Shiva, the god of like fire and destruction, the destroyer in Hinduism, but he's so much more than that. He's amazing. So my dad met this man, and he was from India, like he was full-on Indian man in London, and he had a temple. And my dad was just like in awe of him, because he said that he had some kind of like supernatural abilities, and he has lots of stories of like things that happened with Subra, like him and his best friend. They still to this day talk about the amazing things that happened around this man. And maybe I don't know if it's like maybe he was a Swami or a guru devoted to Shiva, or Shiva expressed himself through Subra. And my dad was like really wanting to be a student of his, and he kept bugging him for like, you know, give me mantras, like give me stuff to do. And eventually Subra, I think I don't know, like he didn't want my dad as a student anymore. And so eventually Subra told my dad about Eckankar and the religion Eckankar. This was coming from an Indian Swami, like someone from India, someone who has his lineage connected to Shiva went back many generations. You know, they know their stuff. They're Indian. They know more than we could. And I'm not someone who's into like cultural appropriation, being biracial myself. I'm not into the whole like, you know, white man goes to brown people's land and steal their religion and pretend like it's theirs. I know it's not good. I'm not into that. But in India and in their culture, Subra knew the teachings of Eckankar, and he thought it would be a good fit for my dad. And I'm wondering if that's because it was created by a Western person, so maybe it would be more accessible to my dad. Because Subra was telling my dad, like, you don't need all of these mantras and stuff. Like, you don't need to do all this. So my dad, he could be stubborn, and he's like, no, like, please just give it to me. I'll do it. Interpret that as you will. So an Indian, maybe Swami, knowing that a lot of these teachings maybe were recycled from Sikhism or Hinduism, he still promoted this because he knew that what was being taught was of of God, like it was pure, and it had some really great teachings in it. Even though there may be a problem with like Western people adapting these words and ideas, overall, is it helping people with the teachings that Paul Twitchell presented? If you study them, what happens to you? Like, what happens to your consciousness? Does it make you a better person? Do you feel more peace in life? Like, do you feel, like positive, good things? If that is the outcome, then they're okay with it. Like, in the Hindu culture, they have the culture of gurus. Like, even in Hindu astrology, the planet Jupiter, they call guru. Jupiter is guru. It's the teacher, like the great benefic. And if someone has guru or Jupiter placed in a positive place in their charts, in Vedic astrology, they say that you could be a good teacher. You have connection to higher spiritual teachings, and that is a path that you should follow. But let's say if you have guru or Jupiter in a bad place, in an inauspicious place in your chart, you may not have access to good gurus, or you may be like egotistical, or you may want followers for a bad purpose. But the idea of, like following a good guru, that's part of their culture. So, I'm not into cultural appropriation, but, I never looked at Paul Twitchell's chart or anything. It's okay to teach or help other people, to lead them to light-filled teachings. That's what I think, and I'm grateful that he came up with this stuff. And of course, he says that it's very ancient teachings and it just resurfaced under this name. And I don't know, maybe it did. And so another thing I want to talk about is both of my parents, they had like the full-on Eck wedding. They did that in Vegas when they both moved back to the U.S., or my dad moved to the U.S. for the first time with my mom, who was a U.S. citizen, and they had the Eck wedding in Nevada. And because at the time there was either a headquarters there, or there may have been like one in Nevada and one in Los Angeles. They did that, and they were like a full-on like Eck couple. But today, my mom is no longer an Eckist, and my dad still is, but she's not. And I think it's because it was really all associated with my dad for her, but when they divorced, I think she just wanted to like move on with her life and let go of anything that reminded her of him, so she just doesn't practice anymore. And when she decided not to be an Eckist anymore, did anyone like come after her or try and talk her into staying or anything? No, like no one even, I don't know of any Eckists. Like, it's not like that. It's not like you can't leave. No Eckist would try and force another one into it, because that's like so the opposite of everything it's about. I don't think people get that. If you decide to leave, like, that's you. No one's gonna be like, oh, you can't do that, calling you or harassing you. Come on. I'll have to ask her, but I know that no Eckists even came around, or it's just so silly to me, all this stuff. I do watch other videos about cult stuff like Scientology or Amway, all that kind of stuff, and I swear that's not what's happening here. So I'm gonna give my mom a call right now and check in with her about her experience no longer being an Eckist, and just to see if she felt culturally prohibited from leaving. So I'm gonna call her. She's in her 70s now, her early 70s. She probably won't be too happy that I say that, but just for some context. Okay, here.
Bianca?
Yeah, hey.
Hey.
So I'm calling you. I'm working on a YouTube video for the Eckankar thing, and I just wanted to ask you a question for you to be in my next video.
Okay.
So I want to ask you if when you left Eckankar, like when you got a divorce and you didn't consider yourself a member anymore, or you weren't like into it, did you feel like anyone tried to prevent you from leaving in any way?
No.
So what happened? Like, how did you leave?
How did I leave? I just didn't renew my membership. I didn't do the next initiation.
And did anyone ever like call you or be like, hey, where are you? How come you're not going?
No.
Or nothing, right?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay. Yeah, because, you saw my first video. So there's just a part where I talked about that my dad still is an Eckist, and you decided to not do that anymore. And yeah, so that's kind of your perspective. So she left and nobody tried to stop her. So there we go.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about it?
No. No, because that's not that kind of group.
Yeah.
It's not a group that would stop you. You have free will to do what you want. That's what I like about it too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. I know I called you out of nowhere, but thanks. So it's kind of like a long way to answer some of the comments that were left, I guess. Oh, and I also wanted to talk about something that happened to me when I was in college. So back in the days of MySpace, because I'm like super old now, and it was, back when we did MySpace before the Facebook era, I came across this guy who lived in Las Vegas. I forgot what his name was. He had like dark hair, and he photoshopped his picture to look like a photo of like a Mahanta or like an Eckmaster. And I remember he like messaged me, and he had a girlfriend who he got into quote unquote Eckankar, and he was telling her that like he's gonna be the next Mahanta, like the next Harold Clem. He told this chick that he is called to be in like a polygamous relationship. I was supposed to be his next girlfriend, and there was going to be 4 girlfriends, and we were all gonna have special areas of things that we were interested in and all this weird stuff. I went along with it for a bit so that I could get the girl on the phone, and then so he like left the room, and I talked to her, and I'm like, is he in the room right now? Okay, he's gone. What he's telling you is a lie. Like, this is not Eckankar. You do not have to stay there. Like, get out. This is not what it's about. That's what I did, because yes, there can be like crazy people who think that they're gonna make a cult out of something because it's not well known, and people can easily be taken advantage of. And so, it was easy for him to convince her like that's what this path is about, and I'm the next one. But there are people out there who think that they're the next Jesus. So it can be done with any religion. And when I found out about that, I let I was in Los Angeles at the time, and I let the center on Sunset Boulevard know, and they contact the headquarters, and I'm sure they dealt with that, because that's not okay. Like, you can't manipulate people, just don't do that. But I mean, of course there's some like mental illness involved there. And so another comment that I saw that kind of bothered me was, I think it was an Eckist who was saying that like I am really afraid of Eckists because of how I say that I just keep to myself and I don't do any of the events, or like I don't go to like centers or something. And I just want to say, I am most likely neurodivergent. I am an introvert, and I have gone through severe trauma, so I just don't like to be around people that often. So I feel like so amazing if I can just like stay home and work on my creative stuff and just keep to myself. So it has nothing to do with me being afraid of Eckists, because that's such a safe environment. Those people, like, you can just see in their eyes, like they're just loving people. So no, I'm not afraid. I guess one thing I will say is, in the past, there haven't been very many Eckists my age. And then also, I'm living in a state that is like 95% Caucasian, and I am biracial. And sometimes it's just hard for me to like hang out with older Caucasian people. I'm sorry. I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, they're cute and they're sweet. But sometimes it's just like, I want to be around people who look like me and who are my age, even though I'm getting older now. But that's another issue, which is why I don't like go and hang out. I do my inner stuff, and that's really all you need. So I'm not afraid of being around Eckists. Like, that's not it. I'm a weirdo. I'm an introvert, okay? So that's what that is. So otherwise, I had a lot of nice comments from people, and if anyone else maybe wants to be interviewed on being an Eckist, or if someone wants to ask me any other questions about it or have any other concerns, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm open to questions if people are concerned, because so many people have seen the video, and it's just so weird because my channel is pretty small. But just know that I'm open to being asked questions. Sorry, I feel kind of silly. And I guess overall, if something is for you, it will feel right to you. I love this quote from Harold Clem. It is that everyone is in their own field of dreams, and your responsibility ends where another person's begins. You do you and I'll do me, and we're good, okay?